and watch us where we go, and help us to be wise in times when we don't know. Let this be our prayer when we lose our way. Lead us to a place, guide us with your grace, to a place where we'll be safe.
La luce che tu dai
I pray we'll find your
nel
light
cuore resterà,
and hold it in our
a
heart.
ricordarci
When
che
stars go out each night,
l'eterna stella sei nella mia preghiera.
let this be our prayer.
Quanta fede
When shadows
c'è,
fill our day,
lead us to a place,
guide us with your grace. Give us faith so we'll be safe.
sogniamo un mondo senza più violenza, un mondo di giustizia e di speranza, ognuno dia una mano al suo vicino, simbolo di pace, di fraternità, la forza che ci dà
We ask that life be
e il
kind
desiderio
and
che
watch us from above.
ognuno trovi amore
We hope it's all we'll find.
intorno e dentro sé.
Another soul to love. Let this be our prayer. Let this be our prayer.
Just like every child,
Just like every child, need to find a place. Guide us with your grace. Give us faith so we'll be safe.
e la fede che hai acceso in noi, sento che ci salverà.
my soul so weary, when troubles come and my heart burdened be, then I am still and wait here in the silence until you come and sit a while with me. You raise me up so I can stand on mountains. You raise me up to walk on stormy seas. I am strong when I am on your shoulders. You raise me up to more than I can be. Stormy seas, I am strong when I am on your shoulders. You raise me up to more than I can be. You raise me shoulders.
Check. Welcome.
Oh, welcome, my friends. Want to come into my home. Oh, welcome, my friends. The tears whistling on the juniper firs. And we sit and talk about the memories. So welcome, my friends. There's a warm heart waiting for a knock on the door. There's a smile I'm saving for that story we've all
welcome, my friends. Won't you come into my home? Oh, welcome, my friends. There's that homemade wine we didn't finish last time, so welcome. And we'll sing old songs if we remember them. So welcome, my friends. Well, there's an extra room in our home and hearts, so don't you go too soon, 'cause we barely had the chance to start. There's a rising moon, and when the dishes are dried, we can go outside just to breathe the air and stare up at the stars. So welcome, my friends. Won't you come into my home? Oh, welcome, my friends. You know you always stay away too long, so won't you come? Sometime you'll have to go, but until then, you're welcome, my friends. You're always welcome in my home. Oh, welcome, my friends. What's mine is yours and back again, so won't you come in? And we'll have a time we'll remember when. So welcome, 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 my friends.
Thank you, Don, for that wonderful performance of your song. Hello, my name is Lisa Salcido, and I'm one of Sue's favorite three sisters. Joe Klupke and I welcome you today as we celebrate Cole. I first met Cole back in 1985 when 10 of us went whitewater rafting down the Yampa and Green Rivers for almost a week. I could tell even then that Cole was in his element. Here in this beautiful place in the middle of nowhere, where you could hear coyotes howl all night, you camped under the stars, and you bathed using the rock formations and the ledges of the massive cliffs around you. As a young 23-year-old hairstylist, it was almost my worst nightmare. I was out there in nature for a whole week without my hair dryer and a curling iron. But Cole was in his home. It was his peace. It was his church. He just loved it out there. When Cole and Sue married in 1989, I felt sorry for Cole. I mean, how does a man that has 0 siblings, no children, marry a woman that has 7 siblings? When all of us get together, the noise is deafening, even when it's just a small percentage of us. And then even, not only does he marry Sue, but he takes 7 of us, family members and friends, on their honeymoon. At one rest stop, we all were piling out of the van, just kept piling out, and some bystander said, "What a clown car," and we just kept coming out. Poor guy. But he adored my sister. He would do anything for her. He truly was one in a million. The weeks before Cole passed, he and Sue worked on editing his collections of poems and stories, knowing he wanted to bind them in a book. They made it halfway through the edit process before he died. Sue took on the challenge these past few months and did have his works bound and printed. Cole would be so thrilled. If you didn't receive a book today, please make sure you take one on the way out. Also, we ask that you take a few minutes to write a favorite memory of Cole and place it in the box on the table in the lobby. There are pens and paper there as well for your use. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Joe Klupke.
Good morning. It's a really great honor for me to welcome you to this celebration of the life of our colleague and friend and relative, Cole Foster. I first met Cole in the spring of 1987 when I interviewed for the job at the English staff here at Adams State, and I would occupy that for the next 17 years. Cole was among the first people I met in Alamosa. It was the beginning of a friendship that would last for the next 37 years. Now that sounds like a long time, and it is a long time, but I'm still pretty much a junior in this league when I look around out here of friends of Cole's, especially. So we have this morning what I hope will be a fitting commemoration of a life remarkable for its passionate love of the region, its people, and the many student lives that Cole touched. So we're hoping to leave a little time for people in the audience to state their views and feelings. We'll see how that goes. So first of all, then we will hear Tom Hayes, who will give you the facts of Cole's life in the obituary. So, Tom?
Golly, Cole loved this place, and he loved all of you. And I thought I'd get through this without shedding a tear or choking up. Not going to be possible. Compared to all of you, I'm a newbie. I haven't known Cole that long. My wife Laura and I met Cole through a mutual friend, Charlotte Ladoni, when Charlotte would have us at various gatherings, holiday gatherings, and Cole and I would just make casual conversation, learned a little about each other, but it was only during the last year that we really got to talk about things, and he and I would meet for coffee on a Friday here at the Student Union building, laugh, carry on, share a little bit. The thing we had in common is that, both my wife and I went to school here. Laura was doing her undergraduate work. I came out to do my graduate work. Laura and I fell in love. We're married here in Alamosa. And we left for our first careers, came back about a dozen years ago. This isn't about us. This is about Cole. I'm going to get there in a moment. But Cole and I got to talking, about a lot of things. And two things became very clear as a result of our conversations. One is that he openly and freely and self-acknowledged that he was a lousy student. That touched me because I worked with teenagers all my life, and many of them really didn't think they could get through school, do anything. Cole is living proof that you can absolutely do that. But when we talked about his being a lousy student, he one time said to me, Tom, he said, I would sit in class and I just couldn't pay attention, just couldn't focus, just couldn't concentrate. He said, I'd sit in class and the window would be open and a crow would fly by and I would go with him. And he said, when I came back, the class was over and I had no idea what was going on here. So many of my students kind of resemble that remark. But the other thing is that we inevitably got to talk about death and dying, got to talk about life and living. And one day he said to me, as we were contemplating the inevitability that we're all going to die, he looked at me and he goes, Tom, it's okay, we all get a turn. His infectious and incurable optimism came through in that moment. We all get a turn. I just wish someone else had cut in line at this point. He left too soon. With that, it is my honor to read his obituary. Cole Nessa Foster passed away peacefully at home on January 8th, 2025, after enjoying 87 years of life. He was born on Labor Day, September 6, 1937, in Ames, Iowa, to Glenn and Ethel Nessa Foster. Because his mother was secretary to the Iowa State University Home Economics and Education Department. Back then it was called the Iowa Agricultural College and Model Farm. There's a mouthful for you. Because of that, the ISU campus served as Cole's childhood playground with its hog barns and fields of corn and soybeans. He spent long, sweltering hot summer afternoons as a kid writing bad poems. His father taught him hunter safety at an early age, allowing Cole to hunt pheasant, rabbits, and squirrels. His job was to dress the harvest, and then his mother would make dinner. He recalled spending one bone-cold, snow-swirling winter during World War II when the 19-foot tar paper trailer they lived in, which he absolutely loved. He talked about that all the time. But that tar paper trailer they lived in froze his shoes to the floor. Cole received a Bachelor's of Science degree in Sciences and Humanities from ISU, Master's degree in English from the University of Iowa, and a PhD in English from the University of New Mexico. He still has an F in trigonometry on his transcript. Didn't even care. Cole taught freshman English, American literature, Emerson and Thoreau, and creative writing for 38 years. After 29 years, he retired from Adams State University in 1998 as professor emeritus. He was thrilled to witness the evolution of students' learning as they discovered and expressed their understanding of the world with new, exciting insights. Nature fueled his spirit, as did reading adventure and wildlife stories, writing poetry and personal essays, racing his MGA sports car, playing baseball and tennis, hunting in the valley, Alaska and Africa, fly fishing in mountain streams and lakes, and bird watching from the dining room table. I wish he had done something with his life. As an only child, the placidity of Cole's life was absolutely rocked when he married Sue in 1989, whose large family is run by committee. He was preceded in death by his parents, a younger infant sister, and Aunt Florence Nessa Cameen, his favorite. He is survived by Sue and her 7 siblings and extended family, his cousin Norman, Doreen Cameen, and their family, his college roommate and lifelong friend, Burke Jane Fletcher. I think there's some things about these feminine names I need to have some conversations with Sue about here. And many dear friends and former students. Cole had a made-to-order last day of life. He and his buddy Ben were awestruck by the flight of a bald eagle. They observed 31 antelope on the refuge, visited an elk farm, and enjoyed lunch complete with chocolate pie. His last word the evening of his passing was, "Student." With that, I would like to bring up and welcome Mr. Ben Cameen.
Thank you so much, Ben. We've asked several family members and friends to share some of their favorite memories of Cole. I'd like to introduce you to Norman Kameen.
This morning I'd like to share a poem with you that was written by Cole in honor of his favorite Aunt Florence, my mother's 98th birthday. Unfortunately, it was her last birthday. It's entitled The Corncob Mouse. But you first need a little background. Cole's mother and my mother were sisters. So we share a grandmother, Ellen Nessa. And Grandma Nessa lived in a big old 2-story house in a little town called Story City in central Iowa. And in her kitchen, she had a wood stove, wood cook stove, wood range. It's a misnomer because with that stove, you could cook with essentially anything that was flammable. And her fuel of choice was corn cobs. And as we know from Iowa folklore, a really good wood range operator could cook a full breakfast with 3 corn cobs. She was fortunate, Grandma was fortunate, that her youngest daughter had married a farmer. And she had an inexhaustible supply of corn cobs. The Corncob Mouse by Cole Foster, written in 2010. When I was 6 or 7, I stood in awe inside the corncob bin, roughly nailed to the back of Grandma's weathered garage, and watched in the thick, humid Iowa July as a tiny mouse sat in the feathered spotlight the heavy Midwestern sun forced in through the cracked and battered boards as though contemplating the dwindling stock of cobs hauled in each day so Grandma could make potato cakes on the top of the cast iron stove, hopeful that Uncle Raymond would soon after harvest flood his little universe with fresh cobs and random kernels to sustain the claret throbbing through the little veins in his diaphanous ears. And I quivered as our 2 bloods throbbed together. Well, I might draw a few conclusions about Cole from that poem, both in content and context. The first thought that came to mind was, what on earth does diaphanous mean? I had to look it up. It means semi-transparent. My second thought was, why didn't he just say that? It's the same number of syllables. Poetically, it should have fit. And then I realized he was still teaching. He had induced me to learn a new word. Now, to date, I haven't found the situation where I could actually use it in a sentence, but be assured, when the time comes, I'm ready. Secondly, I think it illustrates Cole's simple kindness to a 98-year-old lady halfway across the country on her birthday. Could have written a card, a short note, phone call. He wrote her a poem. We might have, the rest of us, possibly slipped up and let that day go by. We're busy, we're stressed. Didn't have time. And then the day passes. And then there are no more birthdays. He wrote her a poem which connected them by memories from the long past. Kindness. We need more of it. Finally, I think we all agree Cole had a deep connection with the natural world. Whether it was that bald eagle, the herd of antelope, the new bird at the bird feeder, or that lowly corncob mouse. He had a connection. So, next time I hear sandhill crane trumpeting down the valley, or I hear a big fat tom turkey gobbling up on the hill, or I bluster about that white-tailed deer nibbling on what's left of my apple tree. Professor, doctor, poet, Cole Nessa Foster, my cousin and my friend, I'll be reminded of you and that corncob mouse with the transparent ears. Laura's next.
Good morning. I am channeling my good friend Cole this morning. I don't know if everybody can see his great outfit here, so here I am. So the other thing I need to make perfectly clear is when Sue and I originally talked, she said, you know, if you could keep it at about an hour, that'd be good. So here's the story for you guys. It's not an hour. So good morning, I'm Laura, and I am Sue's first cousin, and I think the only cousin here. So I have to be her favorite. We are all here this morning because of our deep connection with Sue and Cole. Be it family, colleague, hunting, fishing, or bird watching buddy, a friend, a past student, a neighbor, a lover of pies, a kindred spirit. Like all of us here, I was totally shocked by the phone call letting us know of Cole's unexpected passing. But even more surprising was a following phone call asking if I would say a few words here today per Cole's instructions. Not being a fan of funeral cliches, you know, they're everywhere. Once you are asked, they automatically impede your thinking. Was I the last person on the list? Maybe Sue misread the list. Maybe it was the wrong list. Is there another Laura that Sue forgot about? This one, of course, most all of us would say, I'm not a public speaker. I'm not a tenured professor, certainly not a literary genius, a poet, or an author. I'm not native to the San Luis Valley or part of Adams State. In fact, like Cole, I have deep Midwestern Iowa roots. And yet, here I am. Over the past few months, as I would take my daily walks, I had lots of time to ponder, recalling that, I am sure as all of you have, conversations, smiles, jokes, shared talk of sporting events, the Denver Broncos, the Lobos, the Creighton Blue Jays, they're from Omaha, Caitlin Clark, University of Iowa, the Cyclones, all things sports, even cricket, from his time when he was on his way back from Africa. Adventures that you were privileged to be a part of, or hearing the telling of one of Cole's experiences, phone calls you shared, Scrabble games, his love of teaching and life events. Cole and Sue were the consummate adventurers whether it be here in the valley or anywhere else in the world. Cole was the picture of all things outdoors, starting with squirrel hunting in childhood, fishing farm ponds in Iowa, racing cars, playing ball, to his grand safari in Africa, to tracking bears in Alaska, fly fishing at the PPH, skiing, canoeing, ragbri, snowshoeing, hiking, climbing 14ers, bird watching in South America with Father Paul, camping, and of course you all can fill in the blank. But one outdoor activity only a few know about was the time he was a golf caddy, a role that Cole, of course, embraced. My only regret is that it only happened one time. We were vacationing up in Salida, and the group was golfing, and Cole, loving all things nature and being outdoors, said, "I will go along and be your caddy." My friends were so jealous as Cole would trek through tall grass, across the fields and creeks, into backyards. I'm not a good golfer. To track down my golf ball. The one that's repeated almost every time we golf is when Cole rolled up his pant legs, took off his shoes and socks, and ventured into the creek to retrieve my ball. I think he had watched too much golf on TV and certainly had that bird dog instinct to not let anything get lost. I was told that I needed to mention Cole's GQ sense of style on and off campus. He had a very favorite pair of green polyester pants, high water, that paired well with just about everything, including red wine. And these were the pants that Sue first saw Cole wearing in the library at Adams State. My understanding is that Sue had heard about Professor Foster and his style, so she knew exactly who he was when they encountered one another. Sue and Cole have racked up many frequent flyer miles visiting other countries and states and knew all the routes between Colorado and home. So knowing all of this, I am here looking out over this great esteemed gathering, whom I'm sure Cole has had at least one of these great adventures, and yet here I am representing all of us and thinking, really? So thankfully, Cole left a hint. I'm to recount for all of you the story of the mouse. Another mouse. To dispel all suspense, the mouse was dead upon discovery. Will the mouse story lead us to some deeper life lesson? Will there be any dots to connect between the mouse, Cole's living, and us personally? Not that I've figured out. I think it's just a fun story, and many smile when it's brought up. The story takes place on a river rafting trip down the San Juan River Canyon over the 4th of July, 1994. Thinking it's our 30th anniversary. There were a total of 9 of us, some here in attendance today, whom may not even remember that this happened. So here we go. Sue and Cole organized this incredible long weekend down the San Juan River. Now, I have camped, I've done primitive camping, I've led camping trips, but really, I would prefer a nice hotel. I'm risk averse and not at all comfortable in water. I basically slept in my life jacket and wore my nose plugs as if they were the finest diamond necklace. I was totally not amused upon learning that we had to stand in the river to relieve ourselves. You know, primitive camping, leave nothing behind, meaning you had to get wet twice. How did I not hear this fact when Sue and Cole were explaining the trip details? Perhaps it was mentioned in some primitive camping jargon, but my focus lied in hearing Cole say and repeatedly confirming that you could bring whatever you wanted on the trip. No limits. We had one oarboat and one raft, and there was lots of room. No worries, green light to bring all your comforts of home. There were 9 of us, and yes, we all got the same message. So what did folks bring? Well, there was what Cole lovingly referred to as the Taj Mahal. It was the Superdome of tents, and Cole was jealous it had air conditioning due to the fact it had windows on all 4 sides that would let the air flow through. It was tall enough that you could stand up, and it had an outer sitting room / closet, and I think it had an awning. This tent was not for 9 of us. This tent was for 2. Lucky me. Well, what else? We had supplies for happy hour each night, a guitar, the Groover, which is a portable porta potty. Remember, you leave nothing behind. And what restroom facility would be complete without the creature comforts of home? So there were magazines, puzzle books, and potpourri, and the bandana signaling the Groover was occupied. One person, Sue said, had brought ointment for every orifice of her body. I know, TMI. We had 5-star Michelin meals like red pepper chicken with cashew. We had an espresso machine. Remember, this is 1994. I don't even think Starbucks was around. The kitchen supplies lovingly were provided by Ellen, our matriarch, who was in her 70s. Her husband had built the kitchen so you could wear it as a backpack. It was made out of wood. It was heavy. We were on water. And it was equipped with pots and pans, Ellen's special pancake mix, dish soap, matches, clotheslines, SOS pads, fire starter kit, and of course, the kitchen sink. This thing was amazing. It was all self-contained. And remember the kitchen sink. And one more group item, this was an unusual one. We were all told to bring something for formal night to wear to dinner. We're camping. For me, this request may have been more stressful than primitive camping and rafting down a river. Figuring out what to wear for formal night, this could have been the deal breaker. So formal night consisted of folks wearing kimonos, long white evening gowns, beaded hats, cat-eyed sunglasses, cowboy hats, Hawaiian shirts, and the winning outfit, of course, went to Sue and Cole. Cole wearing his seersucker suit that he had purchased to attend the University of Iowa. And Sue, a leftover bridesmaid dress from her sister Lisa's wedding, complete with dyed shoes that matched the color of the dress. But the highlight of the evening was when we broke into reading Rutledge's Manual of Etiquette. This is from the 1800s. We were roaring with the dramatic reading of courtship rules. From all the laughter, I am thinking many of the rules had been broken. And not wanting you all to feel left out, I did bring the manual, and there so happens to be some pointers on making morning calls to those who are grieving. Never take your favorite dogs into a drawing room when you make a morning call. Their feet may be dusty, or they may bark at the sight of strangers, or being too friendly a disposition, they may take liberty of lying on a lady's gown, or jumping on the sofa and the easy chairs. When your friend has a favorite cat already established before the fire, a battle may ensue, and one or the other of the pets could be seriously hurt. Besides, Many persons have a constitutional apathy to dogs or never allow their own to be seen in a sitting area. For all or any of these reasons, a visitor has no right to inflict upon her friend the society of her dog as well as herself. A good memory for these trifles is one of the hallmarks of good breeding. Our days consisted of a hearty breakfast, rafting down through the canyon, lunch, rafting, and then setting up camp. Each night we enjoyed a wonderful happy hour of decadent stacks and umbrella drinks, followed by dinner, dessert, and lattes. I particularly remember the 4th of July when Cole recited several poems around the campfire with fireworks shooting off over the canyon, and I thought we were in some remote area. I have no idea where those fireworks came from. Okay, now about that mouse. It was another perfect evening, camped right next to the river. We had had dinner. The group was enjoying their evening lattes, and it was time to retire for the night. I am a freak of nature, and I'm not a good sleeper. So like always, I'm up early, taking a swim, and being quiet as not to wake the others. I am up, so I'm padding around the kitchen. Ellen has joined me, and she is our Iron Chef, and she's beginning to work on breakfast. I realized that the kitchen sink, that most of us here would call a pot, still had water sitting in it from the night before. It was those coffee drinkers who didn't clean up after themselves. I spotted the dishcloth in the water. Understandably, I was pretty irritated. Really cold water with a drippy washcloth. What could be worse? So I quickly put my hand in the pot to grab the dishcloth to wring it out. When I look down and I see the dishcloth has a tail. My scream is heard throughout the canyon. In unison, the tent zippers are opening, and you can see 2 sets of eyes from each tent saying, "What just happened?" When I told the response from most is, "Oh, tent zippers now going in reverse." So there is the mouse story. As I said earlier, it's just a fun story that's been told probably too many times. The one takeaway, I guess, is no matter what or where you are, always empty your dishwater. Up next, please welcome Ben Rizzi.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. Cole Foster, he was my friend and my fishing partner. Whenever I think of Cole, I think of adventures. Cole believed everything in life was a part of an adventure. I once asked Cole, since he was teaching here at campus and teaching English for so many years, I said, "Did you ever find it maybe a little boring or kind of got slow and teaching the same thing so many years?" He looked at me and he said, "Oh no, every year is a new adventure. Every day is a new adventure." So many years ago, I met Cole when we moved here to the San Luis Valley, and there was a program here at the college. My wife was working at the library, and I attended this function with her. And I met Cole, and I met some of his fishing buddies, Kay Watson and Harry Daly. And they got to talking about fishing and asked me if I liked fishing, and I said, "I sure do." And they said, "Well, we go out once a week, every week, if you'd like to join us this next week." And I said, "Well, sure, I'd love to." So I went out fishing with them that day, and when we got at the end, we were ready to come home. They said, well, we're going to be going out this next week if you'd like to join us. So somehow I became one of the group. There was 4 of us, and we went fishing one day every week. And after about 3 years, well, we started out with 4 of us in the group. Then after about 3 years, Kay, he had several other fishing buddies, and so he joined them, and there was 3 of us left, me and Cole Foster and Harry Daly. And so we went on fishing, float tubing many lakes, and ice fishing in the winter. And then after that, we spent many years, us 3 fishing together, going out on different adventures. And about 3 years ago, we lost Harry Daly. And so it ended up with just me and Cole Foster. So we continued our fishing, float tubing and ice fishing. And as the years went on, we sort of slowed down on the ice fishing. And we slowed down on taking our float tubes out on the lakes. But from there, we started into new adventures. We started going out looking at birds, and Cole bought a spot and scope. And we enjoyed just going out to different lakes and seeing how many ducks we could identify. And then we started another adventure. We used to usually take our lunches with us every time we went out, but we thought, well, we'll stop taking lunches and we'll eat at some of the restaurants. And so that kind of became our new adventure. And we never went to the same one twice. And we just went all over the place. We were in Salida or up at Pagosa Springs or over in Walsenburg, and we were all over the place. We're doing adventures like this. And so I'll share one of the adventures with you. We had quite a few of them, and some of them were comical, and some of them were kind of stressful. Some of them turned embarrassing. But anyway, we was on our way back from Creed, doing a little bit of fishing, and even though we didn't do too much, we always took our fishing equipment with us, because that was part of us. But anyway, we're coming down through Del Norte, and we decided, well, we'll stop here at this new restaurant. It had just opened up. So we went inside, and we looked at the menu and picked us out something to eat, and we enjoyed our lunch and talked about whatever we're going to do next. And so we were about ready to leave, and Cole said, well, I'm going to go to the men's restroom, and I'll be back in a little while. So I sat there, and I kind of looked at the menu and looked at the news on my cell phone and so forth, and I waited a while, and pretty soon I kept waiting and looking around, and I thought, I wonder what's going on, if Cole's all right. And I was about ready to get up and go see if things were all right, and the waitress came up to me, and she said, your friend is locked in the bathroom, men's bathroom. And I said, well, what do you mean locked in? She said, well, it's a new restaurant and the new doors and everything, and the lock must be sticking. So I jumped up and I ran back there and knocked on the door. I said, Cole, are you all right? And he said, yeah, I'm fine, but the latch on this new door just doesn't want to give, and I can't get out. And so I looked at the waitress and I said, well, surely you have a key. And I said, why don't you go get the key and we'll open it up for him. And she looked at me kind of in surprise, and so she said, I don't know if we have a key. And I said, you don't have a key to the new door, a new cafe being opened? And I said, who's the manager here? I said, go get the manager. So she went and got the manager, and I said, surely you have a key for the door on these restrooms. And she said, well, I don't know if we do or not. I'll go look. So she went and looked, and she came back with about 6 different rings of keys. And she tried every one of them. She said, none of them will fit. I said, well, let me see them keys. So I grabbed the keys. I went through the whole rigmarole and went through all the keys. And I said, okay. I said, who's the owner of the building here? I said, you need to get a hold of somebody. And so she said, well, I'll call so-and-so up. So she calls this person up and tells him the situation. And I could hear what the guy was saying. He said, go back in the storeroom and see what kind of tools you could find. And I said, oh boy, this is going to be an adventure. And so she came out with a hammer and a crowbar. And I said, oh, okay, I said. So, and she told the guy on the phone, I guess the owner of the building, whatever, what kind of tools we had. And he said, go ahead and tear the door down. And I said, holy mackerel, tear the door down. Anyway, so I went and I knocked on the door. I said, Cole, you stand back away from the door as far as you can because we're going to tear the door down. So I took the crowbar and the lady, she took the hammer, and we attacked that door like a beaver chewing on an aspen tree. And we had splinters flying all over the place and making noise, and we just ripped that door apart. The framing and the hinges and everything, and there stood Cole. And I said, okay, Cole, you can come out. And he walked out of there. I said, you okay? And he said, yeah, I'm fine. I said, okay, let's get out of here. So we headed for the front door, and just as we were stepping out, Cole was ahead of me, and he took one step out the front door, and he stopped, and he looked back at me, and he said, you know, I don't think I'll ever come back to this place again. And I said, I don't blame you. I don't think I will either. Anyway, that's how adventures go. I spent many adventures with Cole and different things, and we just had a heck of a good time together doing various things and looking at birds, identifying hawks and everything. And so he was a great companion to meet and to spend a lot of my life with him. And I appreciated all the time that he spent with me. Thank you, folks. And now, I'm sorry, Jan Watkins would be up next.
I'm substituting for Jim Whiting, who had a family emergency. And I'm sorry I'm not a stand-up comedian like he was, but I'll do my best. His essay is entitled People of Real Character and People Who Are Real Characters. After growing up and going to school in Alamosa, where I was fortunate to have Dr. Kay Watkins and Carol Worm as my science and math professors as an undergraduate in the 60s, I returned to the Valley in the 80s to manifest my wife Laurel's long dream of raising horses. We found a 280-acre piece of land about 20 miles south of Alamosa on the Rio Grande below its confluence with the Conejos River. We erected a simple but efficient little structure and called it home. I was between careers, thinking I might teach school one day, so I took some more classes at Adams State from Kay Watkins and Carol Worm in math and science, and Cole Foster in creative writing. As winter approached, I soon learned that Kay, Carol, and Cole liked to blow holes in the sky in the midst of geese. And being the proprietor of what Laurel called the Wild Goose Chase Ranch, I became the willing host and companion of those characters. What a crew. On a sub-zero morning before daylight, we four would set out on our little campo, sneak toward the open stretch of the frozen river, and await the early flights of geese who just might be seeking some open water to begin their day. You can imagine the whispered conversations, the suppressed laughter, the joyful camaraderie of these friends, hunkered down among the cottonwoods and peach leaf willows, awaiting the honking geese in the sharp, frozen stillness of a San Luis Valley pre-dawn morning. How fortunate I was to be in such company. Occasionally, one or the other of us, usually Cole, seldom myself, would succeed in bringing down a goose. Successful or not, we boys returned to the little dwelling which had been warmed by the sun, not the stove, even on that frigid morning. Laurel had coffee ready, and despite it being before noon, we imbibed a wee bit of single malt scotch to enhance our tales. Here we are in this unique San Luis Valley, in its capital amidst the beautiful natural isolation from the bustle of the world. Thanks to this little college, now university, we are not isolated from the jewels that thinking man has to offer. It was people like Kay, Carol, and Cole who made this place unique. Cole was the man who could straddle the world of man and the world of nature joyfully. His spirit lives on in this place and in the hearts of all of those of us who knew him. Thank you.
We'll now have some stories, readings by faculty and former students. And I would just like to say, I prefaced my, my remarks for this morning by saying that most of you know, most of Cole's friends and acquaintances know, that he had a deep love for nature and the out of doors. And I don't think I fully realized how deep that was until something very recent happened. Sue and Cole were preparing a volume of Cole's poetry and other writings. And of course, Cole passed away before it was finished, but Sue has finished it and had it printed. And I think she's done us all a very great service because, you know, you can talk about, oh, he liked nature, oh, he liked the outdoors, he's a great hunter, and so on and so forth. But in order to get the inside, what was going on, and really an astonishingly clear mind, you need to read some of those poems and a little bit of that prose. And so rather than, I was going to read one of the poems, but we're running way behind here, so I think I'll just let you read those poems. One of them is a real dandy, and it's called Hanging In, and it's how after being bored to death, almost, out on the plains of Kansas, Cole sees a squirrel, and his thoughts about meaning and concentration in life are kind of summed up in that little poem. So I urge you to read that. And I think I'll just let it go with that, and I will move on to introduce Terry McCartney. Terry is a former student of his, a former member of the English department, if I may say so. that was the unit I headed up. And since then a distinguished counselor. And she is Dr. Terry McCartney. So Dr. McCartney, would you please come to the podium?
Good morning. Thanks for being here to remember Cole Foster. As Joe said, I was one of his students many, many years ago. I started college in 1981, about 6 years after I graduated high school. I was clueless, knew nothing about going to college, didn't know where the bathrooms were. I was a bit lost and maybe a bit frightened, but then I met Cole. Cole taught me lots of things in my time at Adams State as an undergraduate. But the first lesson he taught me was about our humanity. He taught me a lot about literature and creative writing, and he did that well. But it was his humanness that made me feel safe, made me feel like I could do this. Rather than some ivory tower, scary monster kind of guy, he was kind. He was firm, but he was kind. And he fully owned his own idiosyncrasies. Back in those days, this was prior to Sue, he wore this big gold medallion and turtlenecks. Anyone remember that? We often made fun as students of his attire. But to me, what it finally said was, hey, I'm Cole Foster. Take it or leave it. He was who he was. He loved what he loved: words, nature, and students. Cole taught me what it means to be a student, to study and to take responsibility for it. In my experience, nothing was more important to Cole than his students at Adams State. He wasn't one who got overly involved in what we were doing, but you could tell he cared about it. And he'd listen, he'd be encouraging, and then he sent this message: get on with it. It's time to get on with it. I transferred around a lot during my undergraduate years, and when I finally returned to Adams State, Cole called me into his office and said, "Great, I'm glad you're back. Now finish something." There are a lot of memories of Cole from my undergraduate days. Two of them that stuck with me have little to do with the classroom. One was the trees. I used to house sit for Cole when he'd go off on his adventures, and those trees were about this tall back then, and he taught me very carefully and very thoroughly how to water those by hand. And now, of course, they're 40 or 50 feet tall. Another memory, and this means so much to me, I'm not sure I ever told Cole that. We had finished a spring semester. I was in his creative writing class that semester, and we'd submitted our packets of prose and poetry. And for some reason, I hadn't gotten mine back. And it was a couple weeks after the semester was over, and I ran into Cole at breakfast at the campus cafe. And I approached him and I said, "Hey, Cole, is there any way I can get that back?" I really, really wanted his feedback. He pulls his keys out of his pockets, hands me the keys, says, "This one's to the east door of the ES building, and this one's to my office." I was dumbstruck that he would trust me with the keys to his building, to his kingdom, on a Saturday. That meant more to me than he will ever know. Thank you, Cole, for all those life lessons, for teaching me about being a good listener, a good teacher. We love you, Sue. And I'd like to introduce Mark Stevens.
Well, what you just said, you took everything out of my mouth and everything, just about. Cole, I was a quiet, unassuming student of his in 1972, 73. And I was a Vietnam veteran, and he treated me very worldly. He said, "You've got a job to do here, Mark. I want to see you do it the best you can do." And it just leaves me at a loss for words how much he meant to me. And we came back to, after a stint as a Navy journalist, we came back to, my wife and I, right, where'd you go? Oh, there she is. Anyway, please excuse me because all I can say is you two have been a friend since 1998 when Cole retired. I wrote him a letter and told him he was the best instructor, the best professor I ever had. And we became good friends. We exchanged Christmas letters every year. And we did this past year. And I'm just so glad to be here, just to think about Cole. So I don't have much more to say, but it all comes from here.
Thank you, speakers, very much. I now will, Marty Jones was slated to be in this group, but Marty can't be here, though he did send what appears to me to be his notes for his memories. Now, you want to be really careful when you hand a professor a sheaf of notes, because, it's like, it's a little bit like Parkinson's law. They will expand to fill the time available to do them. So I'll try not to expand on them, but they're very telegraphic, so be patient. Marty is always a very humble person. He says, well, he's not much for writing skill, but he'll put hand to keyboard in an effort to remember. So here they are. Cole N. Foster, a Renaissance man for certain. Skilled at humanities and all manner of outdoor recreational pursuits. My first memory of him is with his Bronco at Terrace Reservoir for a Wednesday night supper with the Adams State crew. And that's in the quotation marks, so I don't know what the Adams State crew was back then. Then gathering Christmas trees for the annual Kill a Tree for Christ potluck. Fishing with Cole on the Arkansas. Favorite spot, I won't tell. And I guess I better not tell either since it's slightly risque, but I believe he's talking about the PPH there. That's an inside joke, sorry. Good success, had to be careful on the rocks. I think that covered, anybody who's ever been in a river fishing for trout knows what that means. And it's not trivial. A birder, willing to share his knowledge and locations. We saw eagles where he said we would. Raised right by his mom, always sending thank you notes. And helping those less fortunate, supporting nonprofits, including being a founding member of our local public radio station, KRZA. A UNM graduate, always rooted for Lobo basketball teams, and shared stories of going to the Pit in Albuquerque. I haven't been to the Pit. I've been to Albuquerque lots of times, but it must be a good place. He would be pleased with the Lobos' success this year. Excellent storyteller, both oral and written. That's the truest thing you can say. Even-keeled and unflappable. Always a big smile on his face and an infectious laugh. Okay, that's from Marty. And now we will let Dolores Mondragon read her piece, Desiderata. It's read that piece, I guess I should say. It's not literally hers. So Dolores.
Desiderata, written by Max Ehrman. Go placidly amid the noise and haste, and remember what peace there may be in silence. As far as possible, without surrender, be on good terms with all persons. Speak your truth quietly and clearly, and listen to others, even to the dull and ignorant. They too have their story. Avoid loud and aggressive persons. They are vexatious to the spirit. If you compare yourself to others, you may become vain and bitter. For always there will be greater and lesser persons than yourself. Enjoy your achievements as well as your plans. Keep interested in your own career, however humble. It is a real possession in the changing fortunes of time. Exercise caution in your business affairs, for the world is full of trickery. But let this not blind you to what virtue there is. Many persons strive for high ideals, and everywhere life is full of heroism. Be yourself. Especially do not feign affection, neither be cynical about love, for in the face of all aridity and disenchantment, it is as perennial as the grass. Take kindly the counsel of the years, gracefully surrendering the things of youth. Nurture strength of spirit to shield you in sudden misfortune. But do not distress yourself with dark imaginings. Many fears are born of fatigue and loneliness. Beyond a wholesome discipline, be gentle with yourself. You are a child of the universe. No less than the trees and the stars, you have a right to be here. And whether or not it is clear to you, no doubt that the universe is unfolding as it should. Therefore, be at peace with God, whatever you conceive him to be. And whatever your labors and aspirations, in the noisy confusion of life, keep peace in your soul. With all its sham, drudgery, and broken dreams, it is still a beautiful world. Be cheerful. Strive to be happy. Thank you. I first met Cole in the fall of 1977 in his English class. And after graduating from Adams State College, I never saw Cole again. Then 35 years later, when Sue started working at Hospice del Valle, Cole and I crossed paths once again. We hit it off instantly, and from there our friendship blossomed. If someone told me that I could only use one word to describe Cole, what word would I use? And that was easy. The word was genuine. Why genuine? If you look the word up in the dictionary, the definition of genuine is someone who is honest, truthful, and sincere in the way they live and in their relationships with others. And for those of us who knew Cole, we all knew he had those qualities. Cole was a people person, and he had a special connection and relationship with people from all walks of life. Cole was genuine with his love and his relationship with Sue, with his family, with his friends. He was genuine with his colleagues and his students. Cole was even genuine with strangers he'd meet in the parking lot at the grocery store. This was Cole, Mr. Genuine. And what I admired most about Cole was the way he was a true friend. He was a down-to-earth kind of guy. And Cole had a special way of interacting and connecting with people. And if you knew Cole, he didn't care if you had a penny or $1 million to your name. He treated everyone the same. And he treated everyone with dignity and respect for who they were. Thank you, Cole, for being a role model and sharing your knowledge. Thank you for making a difference in the many lives that you touched. Thank you for being there for us when we most needed you and seeing the good in others. Thank you for loving life. And thank you, Cole, for just being you. In closing, and in honoring Cole's life, I ask all of us that are here present today to see if we can be a little more genuine within our own lives and make this world a better place the same way Cole did. Thank you.
We have just a couple minutes. If somebody from the audience wants to come up to the front here to this microphone and just share a quick favorite story of Cole, that would be great. And if you'd like.
Morning. My name is Will Hathaway. Went to school here back in the late 80s, early 90s. Dr. Klepke was new. We'd spend our weekends down at the Weekends Tavern dancing to a band called Tumbleweed. It's good old days. But when I was first a student here, I was not quite non-traditional, but I wasn't quite traditional. And one of my first English classes was with Mr. Foster, Dr. Foster. First paper I wrote, I got a C-. And for someone who sailed through high school, that was an eye-opener. And by the end of that semester, I was writing college grade papers, and it served me well over the next several years. And I continued to take classes with him in creative writing, and he took a terrible poet and made me a semi-less terrible poet. But he was unforgettable, and one of the themes which has been brought up, the mouse, you know, a mouse is miracle enough to stagger sextillions of infidels. Never forgotten that one. And there were many more. But one of the other things that he talked about was pantheism, and how your soul is in, your spirit is in everything in the world, and maybe when you die, you're the wolf running across the meadow. You know, I don't know, 20-some years old, and I'm telling you, yeah, right. But I think it's pretty evident by all of us here today and the stories we've heard that his spirit does live on. You know, even if it's not in the wolf, it's in all of us to some degree. And the one thing that just really sticks out in my mind about Dr. Foster is I was a little bit early for probably creative writing class up in the ES building on the 3rd floor. And, you know, at that time, he was what I thought was an old man. And he was walking down the sidewalk there on, I guess it's Richardson, I don't know, but it was wintertime, and the puddle had frozen over, and there was ice on the sidewalk. And he was walking along, and he got to that puddle, and I was just standing there watching him in the window, and he slid on it. And I purposely slid on it like a kid. And I saw that, and I instantly liked this guy a lot more. And I said, I hope when I'm that age, I'm doing that. And every time I slide across a frozen puddle, I think of Dr. Foster.
Good morning. I'm Terry Feldman. I'm Cole's brother-in-law. I'd like to tell a story about a time when I took one of our uncles to Kearney to see the Sandhill cranes when they come down the corridor in the late March. And literally the sky is just darkened with these cranes. And we were going to meet Sue and Cole there and surprise my uncle. And so we did. And it just so happened that weekend that PBS was filming Crane Song. I don't know if you've ever seen it on PBS. Very interesting film about Sandhill cranes. And so we were there most of the day. We even had lunch out there. And there was about a, 20 or 30 minute period where Cole was gone, and all of a sudden he showed back up, and I said, well, Cole, what was going on? He said, well, they interviewed me. They sat me down and talked to me about this. And I said, okay. And he goes, I don't think they're going to put me in the movie. I said, okay, why not? He goes, they asked me what I like most about birds. And he said, well, he told them that they're the only animals that, really taught themselves how to fly. They're very interesting. They're on all the continents. Some swim, some fly, some, they're just interested. Some don't fly. And he goes, some even taste good. He said, I think I'm not going to get in the movie. But anyway, so it's called Crane Song. He did get an interview with PBS on that, so it's kind of interesting.
Joe, do you want to come up?
I just want to say thank you so much for coming. It's been a real honor to serve in the capacity that I have this morning. I wish we could have everyone here to get up and say something, but that isn't the way things work. So thanks, and I guess there's one other thing. You'll say something about the luncheon, right?
Mm-hmm. Just wanted to say Sue is very grateful for all the memories you guys have shared today of Cole, and for all the friendship and support that you've given her in the past few months. After this closing song, please join us outside for a luncheon. Thank you.
and all that we can be, not what we are. So you speak to me of sadness and the coming of the winter, fear that it